Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wrestleview Live number 117. It's been a while since we did one of these, but it seems like our entire show revolves around just now CM Punk leaving and returning. Because the last one we did, we were talking about him leaving, and now tonight we are here just a little over an hour ago. CM Punk has returned to the WWE in the most never say never in WWE type of moment ever. I'm rarely ever shocked by anything in wrestling anymore, and this one shocked me. I'm so excited to talk about this with our SmackDown recapper and news reporter, the best looking of the Nemmer duo, Mr. Roy Nemmer, of course.
Thank you, Mike. What a great introduction. No, thanks. Yeah, it's one of those, like you said, never say never, and just shocked. There was a lot of speculation, but just shocked. It's all I got for now.
Well, I need you to give me a little more than that once we start talking about him. It's gonna be like this is gonna be like one of those things. Like, do you remember where you were when this happened? Of course, I'll remember that I was in front of my computer typing the entire time. But like that feeling, oh my god, it's so rare that like these things happen. I'm so like it's just so that's why people ask like oh Mike, you're pushing 40, you still watch wrestling? Yes, I do. Absolutely, I do. I've been writing for this website since I was 20 years old. I think I turned 20 and now I'm 36. I've been doing this forever on this website. And it's nights like this that just make me say, I can't wait for Monday to recap again. I can't wait to do this. And of course, you can take my wrestling fandom and multiply it tenfold, and you'll reach where Jerome Weiland is in wrestling fandom. Our own news reporter, Jerome Weiland, and of course, our AEW Collision reporter, recapper as well. Wow, Jerome, one hell of a return tonight. One hell of a show. What do you think? So let's give our instant thoughts on CM Punk's return to WWE at the end of Survivor Series. Start with Jerome here.
Surprising, but not surprising, because I mean it's outside of Illinois, Rosemont, Illinois. It's Punk's hometown, basically. There was a lot of speculation, like Roy said, but part of me was surprised and part of me wasn't surprised. So that's where I'm at with it. So we'll see where we go from here with it. It's very interesting. We'll talk more about that as the show progresses.
Sure, Roy. Well, they throw up the copyright logo on the screen. You think the show's over. I mean, this fan speculation has been going on for quite some time. Then they pay off on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't, for whatever reason, I did not think it would actually happen when the speculation started, just because I don't think, even now, as crazy as this sounds, I don't think WWE needs him. Like, they're so big and they're doing so well that they don't particularly need CM Punk. Yet it could, like, does it hurt to have him? Obviously, his track record kind of shows that it does, but financially speaking, he's going to bring in a lot of money. And I'm still, am I surprised? Similar to what Jerome said, I am and I'm not. And it's just kind of like, there are so many things to talk about. Like, who's he going to feud with? What's going to happen? How did it truly all go down? What's the reaction for some of the superstars? We've seen some pictures already. We've read some tweets about some stuff going on already backstage. It's nuts. The effect that this could have on the wrestling community. And I know this is the Survivor Series show, and we are going to talk about Survivor Series, but you got to wonder what is going on in Tony Khan's mind right now. It's ridiculous. There's so much to talk about.
There is. I have a lot of thoughts on this CM Punk return, but in the immediacy of it, I mean, like, you read all the stuff, and I follow closely, everything we all do, with what goes on. I've been following this extremely closely on, in a pseudo professional, capacity, for a decade and a half, maybe more. And, when every single, reputable source is saying that there's nothing there. And literally all of this, as more stuff starts to leak out, there wasn't even a signed contract, not a signed WWE contract by CM Punk as of this morning. And that's how quickly this all came together. He had a 1-hour conversation with Triple H a little while ago, and this just came together just like that. I don't think anybody in the ring knew. There's a really awesome video of Seth Rollins flipping out at ringside, and also another picture of him looking completely dejected. There's a report that Drew McIntyre stormed to the back, put on his hoodie, and stormed out of the Allstate Arena, which part of it, like now I'm just thinking everything's kayfabe at this point, so there has to be some people that had to be in the know a little bit here. I don't think they're going to blindside their top stars like that. But when they threw up that copyright logo, I was just like, I thought it was like one of those things like Vince McMahon, saying like, oh, they wanted Santa Claus and, he didn't appear. I'm just so conditioned to that line of thinking. They send out Randy Orton. I'm like, well, they have Randy Orton back, and Randy Orton looks incredible, and he hasn't been in the ring in a year and a half. I think his last match was July 2022. I think Vince McMahon was still in charge when Randy Orton, was taken off, and he had double fusion surgery. I'm like, God, they're not going to bring Randy Orton back just to have him be overshadowed by a CM Punk return. That'd be crazy, right? Then they throw up the copyright logo. I'm actually literally getting up from my seat. I'm like, okay, good. Now I can, just finish up my dinner and get ready for the show. The CM Punk music hits. I'm sitting here on the couch. My computer's on a tray table. My PF Chang was on a table as well. I almost sent fried rice across my house. That's how quickly I jumped back. The goosebumps of just hearing Cult of Personality. What is it, guys? I'll ask this to Roy first. What is it about? We did a show with Adam Martin in 2021 when CM Punk, returned to wrestling essentially for the first time in like 7 years, to AEW, and it felt like a really big deal at the time. And it definitely was. Collision has never even sniffed a number close to the number that he brought in on that first episode. But for many, many reasons, that whole deal turned into a humongous disaster. But what is it about a WWE return that's just different?
What makes it different is it's a lot of things, I think. And it's things that maybe some other companies haven't quite mastered or probably will ever master. It's the fact that, one, you never know what you're going to get. Like, truly, we've said it in the past, never say never. That's one. So that's the big, big shocker. Two, it's just the production quality, whether it's the superstar itself, whether it's the music, the lighting, the commentary. Even though there was no commentary whatsoever when CM Punk came out, there's something different about the WWE. We can say what we want about Vince McMahon, and we've said a lot of stuff about him in the past, but the man knew how to, entertain. He knows the entertainment business. It's world wrestling entertainment, and getting us all excited when a wrestler comes back, when a superstar comes back, it's magical. I don't know if it's nostalgia. I don't know if it takes you back to when you're a kid and you're just so excited to see your favorite wrestler back or one of your favorite wrestlers back. But there's just something. There's just something that it just pulls you back in even more. And you're like, you know what? Going back to what you said earlier, Mike, I can't wait to watch Raw now. And those surprises, even though we knew Orton was coming back, the pop, the ovation he got was massive, massive. Yet it paled in comparison to CM Punk's ovation. And I don't know, it's something in the water. It's something about that WWE return. It's special.
Yeah, it truly is. That's a really great way to put it. Jerome, do you think, because you followed closely with CM Punk's unfortunate end in AEW? I mean, there's no other way to put it other than it was just a terrible end, and it really, for up until basically tonight, seemed like that was going to be a really pitiful final chapter to what's been a very, very polarizing 2-decade long career. Did the way he left WWE in 2014, like, you know, is that why, or is it just like WWE just does, or is it just that's the mindset? Do you think the mindset is that WWE just is the spot, no matter what other companies try to do? You know, WWE is just always going to be the home of wrestling, and everything else is just a knockoff in a sense.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, Punk, he went from Ring of Honor to WWE, then he left on unfortunate terms in 2014, and now he's, and then he was gone for 7 years, tried that failed UFC career, and then ended up back in AEW. And WWE, like Roy said, their production is, top notch. It's higher quality, and they know how to make return special. Not that Punk's return wasn't special with that Rampage episode, but it's just something about WWE that's different from any other promotion, no matter how big they are. And one of the things that Roy and I were talking about offline was that Triple H isn't going to put up with Punk's crap if he ends up, trying to be a drama queen backstage. But I don't think that's going to happen, because a big difference is that Tony Khan is a mark and not a boss a lot of times, and Triple H is a boss, and he's going to toe the line with him. So we'll see where it goes from here. We'll see if maybe Punk's the guy that takes the title off Roman Reigns. I thought about that, immediately after I saw Punk's return, but I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think this is all just so freaking brand new that I don't even know if we're at the level of even talking about CM Punk going for titles or even what show he's going to be on. He didn't have a contract until apparently this afternoon, maybe later. Right. I think those storylines still have to be determined. I'm very curious to see what they do, but most of what I'm curious is to see, and part of me feels like all this stuff floating around on the internet right now is a bunch of kayfabe stuff with Seth Rollins freaking out and Drew McIntyre storming off, and it's like, make sure that the narcs see you so you can tell Mike Johnson, that you're really pissed. And it reminds me of, the immediate aftermath. I'm going back and, of course, I love my wrestling history, of course. WrestleMania 12, when Bret Hart gets, loses the Iron Man match, storms out of the Anaheim Arrowhead Pond, and sits in his locker room. He tells the camera, "Get out, get out, get out!" And they dug into it to make it seem like he was legitimately pissed, and then he went away to go do Lonesome Dove or whatever the hell that show was, but just like, make sure that the snitches see you so they can tell, all of the, the reporters, that you're pissed. Like, it feels like that to me. But in case it's not kayfabe, just let's say, for instance, that this is not kayfabe, Phil Brooks has a lot. He does come with a ton of baggage. And it's not like it was, he's been gone for, a year and a half and he's learned his lesson. He like choked out, Jack Perry and whoever else, and swung and nearly hit Tony Khan just a little over 2.5 months ago. This is not ancient history here. And this is not the first time it's happened either. So to say, for when Triple H went on that press conference and said that, CM Punk is a different CM Punk, it's like, I don't know about that, bro. I mean, yeah, maybe he's different from 2014. He wouldn't have swung at Vince McMahon then, but I don't know what he'd do now. He does have to convince a lot of people that he's changed. And this is not AEW, which is very much the Wild West, where they let people drip blood into each other's mouths, and that's a spot that gets approved by their producers, by the way, when they're in search of a TV deal. I saw the match. I loved the match. I thought, I love a good Texas death match, but my God, why would you, the whole blood and guts thing, which they, of course, flip-flopped into an awesome freaking match, that pushes big numbers, also does hurt them and keeps them in a niche market. And when you're looking for a TV deal, that, the WWE fans on Twitter or X, are going to be sending the, like when the Fabulous Moolah thing was like, oh, she was basically, running a prostitution ring. Like, okay, then no more Fabulous Moolah. We don't talk about her anymore. They're going to be doing that to, look what they did to NWA with CW. They got their deal canceled. I mean, it was a stupid idea what NWA did. Without question, that was really stupid. But just a few people online can cause a lot of damage. And putting blood in your mouth is just so deeply weird. But in any event, CM Punk has to do a lot of work to prove people wrong in this case. I'm very concerned about his paranoid nature that leads to these things happening. He is a deeply paranoid, untrusting person. And a lot of it stems from how he left wrestling in 2014 and feeling like everybody was working against him. And, the story of this is going to be, how does he deal with that adversity when a storyline doesn't go the way he wants it to? Or, they don't do exactly what he thinks he should be doing. That's the real question. That's going to be the thing to keep an eye on for the next couple months here. Very worried about that. I don't know what that looks like. Roy, I want to say that this will be a great final chapter of CM Punk's career. How do we see this going? I don't see him taking the title off of Roman Reigns, because I don't think you keep a title on a guy for 1,100 days, probably even longer, just to take it off and put it on a guy who's north of 40.
Yeah, no. I don't think at all he's the guy to take it off Roman. If anything, maybe have him feud with Cody or Seth or who knows, but definitely not Roman. I think to a certain degree he has changed. Going back a little bit to what you mentioned, I don't think he's still that 20-something-year-old kid who's as paranoid maybe as he used to be. I think recently what happened in AEW is, and someone mentioned it in the chat, he was borderline kind of dealing with the modern day clique, so to speak. And you mentioned AEW being, the Wild West, and that's also very true. So I think there's more structure in WWE. There's more, like, everyone's maybe more disciplined. There's more, okay, we know what's going on. This is what's happening. There's this, there's that. And I think the fact that he is older, he is hopefully more mature, we're going to have a lot less problems. Is this going to be a smooth sailing? Probably not. Hopefully it is, but probably not. But I think we are going to get, and maybe this is me being, overly optimistic, but I think we're going to get a good ending to CM Punk's wrestling career, much better than at least what it could have been in AEW. And let's not forget, he has some friends in WWE, whether it's Cody Rhodes or Jade Cargill, someone that maybe he can mentor or train or whatever it is. So I don't know what his role is going to be backstage, if he does have a role, if he's just strictly a wrestler. Someone mentioned in the chat it's a 3-year deal. If it is, then holy crap, because I don't know how you could sign CM Punk to a 3-year deal. But there's got to be some guarantees involved. There's got to be something. But, with that said, storyline-wise, he's not going to be the guy to take it off Roman. I still think it's going to be Cody. But there's a lot of potential storylines. I mean, just him and Seth, the real-life animosity. Seth's spoken about him recently the past couple of months. If you play into that storyline, have Punk get the title off him, you have a great story going into WrestleMania.
Yeah. I think what, plays in WWE's favor with this deal as well is that they're not, a one superstar company. I mean, with Roman Reigns, I guess he is their one guy, but like they have a million different parts in the machine that could take over. When CM Punk exploded in AEW, like it did kill their momentum. I mean, like, we're talking about a company that went from, selling out Wembley and outdoing SummerSlam 1992, those old records, having 80 plus, what was the number, Jerome?
That was like 81,000 something.
So, yeah, it was.
Yeah, something like that. And
okay, there we go. Yeah, it was over 80. It was over 80,000. I'd have to look up.
Yeah, over 80,000. Okay. So we're talking about a company that did over 80,000 people. And the whole CM Punk thing happens that weekend. And then it's just like the momentum in the company just totally died after that. They don't really have like a major star. You know, like I think what's working in WWE's favor is that they have a whole bunch of guys that could, you know, they were doing just fine before. And, you know, I think CM Punk's antics won't, you know, if he does just try to pull them, won't be as devastating in WWE because it's just they sell WrestleMania just based on the name. You know, all in was sold out. You know, again they didn't have any matches announced until like a week before the show. But you know, it's like, who do you want to see? You know, you want to see all this great talent. You know, I don't really think the name sold it as much as like, you know, the possible matches that you could see. So it's there are some safeguards, I hope, and I hope that he plays nice. We'll see, because he didn't have a lot of nice things to say about Triple H before, you know, on that Colt Cabana podcast. But again, that's 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it seems like almost. It would have been 10 years in January 2024. So kind of amazing. Jerome, you have something?
81,035 tickets were sold for All In.
There you go. So, and now it's like, you know, like always every week on the freaking internet, it's like, you know, pictures posted of like, you know, their half empty arenas and stuff like that. It's like, you know, he really did a lot of damage to them at the end for whatever reason. He was a needle mover. He did sell tickets. Now, let's play Fantasy Booker real quick. Where do you think CM Punk winds up? And what do you think he's doing at WrestleMania? We'll start with Jerome. Where do you think? What show do you think CM Punk winds up on? And what do you think he's doing by WrestleMania?
I think he'll probably end up on Raw because they're looking for a TV deal for Raw right now. Because NBC Universal is out of that picture, and there's been discussion about Amazon Prime or possibly FX is the new home for Raw. And what's he doing at WrestleMania? That's a good question. I don't know, like you mentioned, is he going to feud with Cody? Could he feud with Randy Orton? Are they going to find somebody else to maybe put him in a feud with? I don't know. It'll be an interesting question to see what he does and where they go from here. I just don't know. I have a lot of questions on, you know, what they're going to do with them. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I think he'll probably open up Raw on Monday with some type of an in-ring promo. And I guess we'll find out. It's a very good question.
Thank you. I thought so myself. Roy, what do you think? I'm sure selfishly, I know where you'd like him to wind up.
Oh yeah, of course. That's no question, and especially considering technically Fox had him right a while back.
You are selfish.
Yeah, right.
You want all the good stuff. You want all the good wrestling to yourself. That's what you want.
I mean,
Mr. Flagship of WWE now.
There you go. That's it. No, I think he ends up on Raw. I don't think there's any way he ends up on SmackDown. I think he ends up on Raw, and I truly think if it's not kayfabe, if what we saw with Seth tonight was not kayfabe and he's actually pissed, if Seth is a professional enough, and again, I'm not a wrestler, obviously, so I don't know what goes on in their minds, but if maybe Seth is professional enough, Seth versus CM Punk going into WrestleMania would draw, in my opinion, just as much money as Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. And I think that's where you have to go. If not, you somehow get Punk versus Cody, those two on the mic as well. That would be just ridiculous. But it's got to be them. If not, the other thing that I was kind of thinking about going into this, in terms of him showing up tonight, I thought Nakamura, like Shinsuke Nakamura's promos lately have been, like, who's he talking about?
Yes.
So that's another one. But I don't know, is that really how you want to bring CM Punk in, going against Nakamura? I doubt it, but that's how I would book it. So either Seth, Cody, or Nakamura. I think those are the three you have to go with, in my opinion. What about you, Mike?
I think you make some really great points there, Roy. I also do think that he is going to probably wind up on Raw, Raw seems to be a little more skewed toward like, an older fan base at this point now. I mean, Cody Rhodes is, Cody Rhodes, and he's phenomenal. He breaches, many generations, but we're gonna, they're getting Randy Orton back. Seth Rollins, like these are like, they're kind of catering toward the more wrestling heavy audience on that show. And I think CM Punk probably fits in there really, really well. I think this is absolutely, I mean, like there's a lot of options for Seth Rollins. I mean, actually the big loser, I think, in this whole entire thing could wind up being Damian Priest. Because all of a sudden, there's really not a lot of money in Damian Priest versus CM Punk, for the title. I don't see that as much. And it also doesn't make sense to like take the title off of Rollins for a little bit, only for him to win it back from Priest to lose it to Punk at WrestleMania. I think it's going to be Punk versus Seth Rollins. I think that's the best possible world title match that you can get at WrestleMania. That could main event night one. So CM Punk's dream of getting a WrestleMania main event is fulfilled there as well. And I do think that he wins it. Now, the only way that Damian Priest could come out not a loser in this is if he decides, I'm going to cash in and make the WrestleMania main event a triple threat, which could be but he would have to win, we'll see what happens. I don't know if they trust him enough to put a title on CM Punk. Again, the onus is on Phil Brooks to show that he's willing to play the game the right way. If he does that over the next few months, maybe they feel comfortable putting the title on him. If not, he gets his WrestleMania main event. He doesn't get the title. Damian Priest walks away with the title. But I think that's probably what's on the docket for him, if I had to guess, while Cody Rhodes goes back to Roman Reigns.
Yeah. What about this? Because you mentioned, and I agree, by the way, but I think the bigger, I don't want to use the word loser, but the biggest loser coming out of all of this, I think, would actually be Drew McIntyre because of everything going on. But what about this with Damian? You get Seth versus CM Punk at WrestleMania, right? Whoever wins, you get Damian cashing in right after, like the night of, to end the show, similar to what Seth did. What is it, almost 10 years ago now or something? Do you do something like that?
I mean, they could do something like that, or on the flip side, I've been saying, like, why can't they do something like this, where night one it's CM Punk, Seth Rollins, the winner faces Damian Priest the next night in the opening match of WrestleMania Night 2. For the world title or something like that, like they can. I mean, there's a lot of things that they can play with, and I think it'd be cliche to say like have them I think they want to do something that hasn't been done before, and also think a little more outside the box than Vince was willing to. Right. I think they want to give us some stuff that just hasn't been done, at least in a while.
No, and I agree with that. And actually, I'm going to bring up a comment, and I'll because I kind of agree with this. How about we get Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre for the title, Cody Reigns, and this could be something. But the reason why I bring this up is because you could honestly get Damian Priest cashing in, let's say, on Seth at the Rumble, whatever it is, and because Seth and Punk, the history's there, they don't need the title, technically, if that makes sense. So you could have that match, that WrestleMania match, right there. You could have Seth versus Punk at WrestleMania. It doesn't have to be a title match. The history of it is there. The story tells itself. And then you could have maybe Punk and Drew telling Punk, you're not going to come in and steal my thunder, steal my spotlight type of thing. And that's a world title match. I don't know. We're just, I mean, we're spitballing here, which is fun. I mean, that's what makes this such a great night, is that the possibilities and the and every branch is exciting, right? Like, that's what we've been waiting for, for years. When everyone's like, "Oh, Mike, you're so negative on WWE," it's like, because I've been waiting for them to wake up and get it. It's been so long,
you know, and it's like, you know, as the storylines progress under Vince, it's like, God, like, you know, one branch is worse than the next. And, you know, he's going to go toward the stupidest one because he was just wanting at the end, all he wanted to do was fight the fan base. That he was just committed to having it his way or the highway. He was the only person. The show was written for one guy and nobody else. And now it's, you know, so like when these things when Triple H says like, oh, you know, when I talked to Vince, he said, you know, always make sure you put yourself in the seats, man, you know, when you're booking, because that's how Vince hasn't done that for 15 years. Let's get real. But you know, like now it's like, you know, it's like, yes, there is some fan servicing going on here. You know, the fan fiction turned into reality. They gave them what they wanted. They made a deal that, you know, in many ways, many thought would be a no-go. CM Punk coming back, that's a no-go. Why would he want to come back to the company that served him his papers on his wedding day? You know, it's like, but they figured out a way to make it happen. And part of it is because Vince isn't there anymore. And it is a different regime. It's not McMahon owned anymore. There's more of a structure here. But again, you know, like I'm looking at that, you know, I don't think AJ Lee will come back per se because of all the health issues. I don't see that happening. But you know, there's a lot of great branches here because, you know, Drew McIntyre's been complaining that it's just Jey Uso alone, and now it's going to be the whole structure, the whole corporation is against me. And that plays into the paranoia of the Drew McIntyre character. That could be a really excellent storyline. Maybe that, you know, plays into the WrestleMania lead up and stuff like that. I think in the immediate, CM Punk is probably his first program is with Nakamura. I just, you know, it might not even be at Royal Rumble. It could just be like this leads to his first Raw match, you know, on the first Raw of 2024 or something like that. You know, like there's a lot of ways they can play around with that one as well. But God, it's just so exciting. I can't contain myself. You know, like the goosebumps that just from hearing the music, it was outrageous. You know, like I've rarely ever surprised by anything in wrestling. I think I was trying to say this at the beginning of the show. I never really got to finish my thought because I'm just so my head's like spinning with like all the excitement. But like I was there in person when The Undertaker lost at WrestleMania 30. And it's just like one of those things, like it just was stunning when it happened. You know, I was there in person when Eric Bischoff came to WWE in 2002. It was stunning. Like, who would have ever thought that Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon would be hugging on the ramp? It's probably one of the stupidest things that Vince ever did because that just killed right away any type of program that they could have done. But nonetheless, amazing moment. Like some of those never say never things. And this one right up there with never say never. Total surprise, man. Like I've been following this for so long, you know, in a sort of semi-professional, semi-psychotic kind of way, and to be surprised like that is so cool, so freaking cool, and to get the hair on my arm standing up, I just love it. But there's more to this show. I think we should probably talk about it. The next thing we should talk about, maybe the big loser in the very immediate, is Randy Orton. No one's talking about Randy Orton. Double fusion back surgery. And
Yeah,
he comes back and he's bumping and he looks great. He's beefed up. He looks 10 years younger because he's clean shaven. Maybe there's something to it. My mom's like, you gotta shave that beard because it makes you look too old. I'm like, I am getting up there, but maybe if I shave, maybe I will look better. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything I can do to look better. But he looks great, and we're not talking about him. So, Roy, what did you think of Randy Orton?
no, I mean, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's back. Especially, you know, the rumors and reports about him potentially not being able to wrestle again, and the surgery. It's just not easy. I like Orton. I've pretty much always kind of been a fan of his. Very good on the mic. Has some very good matches. Knows how to play to the crowd. Very happy for him. And there's stories from here, right? We saw some of it, him and Jey Uso tonight in the ring. Even Jey kind of alluded to it on Raw when Orton was announced as the member of War Games. But with him, the problem with Orton, and it's not really him per se, it's a matter of like, because he's been there for so long, how do you keep things fresh with him, right? Granted, being away for about a year and a half is a pretty good way. of doing that. Come back, maybe have him feud with Jay, and then who knows? Do you have him feud with Cody Rhodes afterwards? Right? If Cody wins if Cody wins the title at WrestleMania, you could have Orton Cody after that. So there's a lot. I'm very happy for him because I think he's mature enough and he is absolutely a veteran. I don't think he minds too much in terms of the spotlight not really being on him at the end of the show, but he got a hell of an ovation. Like that crowd tonight in Chicago from the start of the show to the very end were very fun, very loud, and Orton had up until CM Punk the pop of the night. So I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point too. The Chicago crowd was so freaking great. I was actually a little worried because there was a couple times during the main event where the CM Punk chants were just there, and I was like, oh crap. When I was thinking like when Shotzi Blackheart, well now she's Shotzi, when Shotzi got in the ring after not bringing a table and they booed her, I was like, oh man, like I hope that they're doing the right thing here, and by far when they did a great thing by teasing the Money in the Bank cash in and then sending Randy Orton out there. That was just such a great call because they like Seth Rollins. Whatever. No counting for taste, I suppose, but I think he's a great wrestler, terrible character. But nobody wants to see Seth Rollins lose the world title in the middle of War Games, and here comes Randy Orton and make sure that doesn't happen. I thought that was a really awesome freaking move. It worked out well. He looked really, really great. Jerome, what do you think of the return of Randy Orton?
I'm glad he's back after having a back surgery, and there was a lot of questions whether he was going to return or not because of that back surgery. And he looked really good tonight. I was like, wow, he's like buff. He's been working out. He actually looked really good. Moved around good in the ring for being out for so long. I'm sure he was working out and getting some ring rust off at the Performance Center. But yeah, I'm glad he's back. We'll see where he goes with feuding. Maybe like Roy said, he'll have a feud with Cody. Maybe at the Royal Rumble, Cody will, eliminate him, and then there's a feud that starts there, or maybe Randy, eliminates Cody and vice versa. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. And again, I reiterating what Roy said, I don't think Randy, being the veteran that he is, being, in the company for so long, that he minds, not having the spotlight on him completely. I think he's mature enough now for that as well. So it'll be interesting to see what comes on Monday. Monday is going to be a very interesting show. There's going to be a lot of different stuff on Monday, and I think maybe they can pop a over 2 million instead of the dismal 1.3, 1.4 rating they've been getting. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think they if they're gonna get that rating, they have to like right now announce that CM Punk will be on Monday Night Raw, and he'll be kicking it off too. It's like, don't make him wait. Just give him CM Punk right away. I think, I think that this could be probably the biggest Raw of the year, because there's just so much coming out of it. You got Randy Orton coming back, but you also have, CM Punk, and man, like it's just going to push it. It's going to punch a number. I think you're totally right about that.
Let me ask you guys a question, and I guess maybe more so specifically Mike, because you recap Raw.
I do.
When was the last time the fall or the build up to the Royal Rumble was as exciting as it is now?
Oh man, not since I've been recapping Raw. No, not really. Honestly, not since I've been recapping Raw.
Yeah.
Usually like this is the time they start to wind down.
That's it, but not this year.
Not this year. I mean, like, God, it's like, I know they don't. I'm pretty sure they don't have a pay-per-view booked or a PLE booked for December. But they have a lot of like, they're doing such a great job of building up their TV matches. Like, they made Gunther versus Big Bronson Reed a couple weeks ago seemed like a really big deal because they just gave it like, a week or two of like making you wait for it. I think they can do the same thing with Ivar and Big Bronson Reed on Raw like this Monday. They've been making us wait for a little bit. I'm like really excited to see that. I think that they're not going to slow down at all. This whole entire thing of like taking your foot off the gas pedal, just because it's a certain time of the year, doesn't make it a whole lot of sense. The shows are going to be happening anyway. The money, people are still going to be spending the same amount of money on it as they would, if it was a January show. Give the people a good show. Give them a reason to get invested and get excited. Whatever buy rate you could do for Royal Rumble, with a month of build. Imagine what 2 months of build would do for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think like that whole idea of like the cool down match before the main event and stuff like that is like, that's the one thing that AEW does right. It's like they don't have any cool down matches. It's just like match. The next one tops whatever the last one did. And they build up that way. I admire Tony Khan for booking his shows like that, because that I think is the way to do it. Just keep
But it is overkill. Like when it's like 12, 13, 14 matches on a pay-per-view, that is
without question. Too many matches.
Too many, but tonight only had 5.
Yes, yeah, only 5. And I guess you could argue that the Rhea Ripley match was a cool down before the War Games match, but they didn't book it to be that way. I think it just turned into that just because of it wasn't the opponent wasn't really dynamic in the way that I think they were hoping for. And honestly, the match was a little clunky. Zoe Stark, I think, was a little just a little out of her depth in that one. There was one point when they tried to do some kind of move off the top rope, and I think she was supposed to stick the landing. Instead, it looked like she basically landed right on her face, and then she had to get up and no sell it. And I was like, oh, I'm out of that match. That sucks. But and also the fact that Rhea Ripley just looks like such a superstar, and it's like, man, like nobody in that division is even close to her level. So it's really difficult for any match that she has to be exciting. They have one match, Becky Lynch. That's it. That's
depending on how they book Jade. If she's ready, because Rhea's a superstar. She really is.
I saw Jade Cargill in AEW. Come on.
That's what I'm saying. Because I don't think
she got a great look. But a million people have great looks. Riddick Moss had a great look. He's no longer employed. It's like, a million people. But she has a dynamic personality, and that's the difference. That could be the difference for her. Do I see her being like the WrestleMania person? Who knows? But I think the match that is probably the one to do would probably be Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. In any event, the whole idea of cool down matches and like take your foot off the gas pedal for December. Who cares? It seems to be like over. Let's make as much money as we can and keep people as excited as possible. Seems to be the new direction. Like a lot of Vince's ideas were antiquated. And I think they're going to prove that this month.
I hope so.
I'm excited.
Well, they still have Elimination Chamber. There's still Elimination Chamber.
Yep, that's coming in February in Perth.
In Australia, in Australia.
So, are we going to get up at 7 a.m. and do a post show for Elimination Chamber?
I'm up for it, but we got to see what time it's at.
Yeah, I'm usually up at between 5:30 and 6 o'clock my time anyway, so I'm good.
Sheesh. Yeah, I'm curious to see. Like, I mean, I think the last show they did in Australia, I think I remember like Adam and Hunter Golden doing a show at like 7 a.m.
Oh my god,
brutal, absolutely brutal.
Oof,
but we'll see. Because
that's in February. We still got some time.
Yeah, we have some time. The next one is Royal Rumble for now. Although they did an interesting little commercial tonight for some like superstar experience in Riyadh in January. Like, what was that?
I don't know. They had that as well in the last. I think it was Fastlane. They had that as well. I think it might just be some sort of exhibit going on where they might show like cars and like wrestling costumes, something like that. I'm guessing. I'm not sure.
That's what it is. It's basically it's an exhibit in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe like the Physical Hall of Fame now that
Yeah,
I'll never get to go to. You know, never. I'll wind up in some political. I'll become like some political dissident, in prison and beheaded and dissolved in acid. That won't that be a joyous way to spend my vacation? Never mind. Anyway, so the rest of the show, let's talk about the two War Games matches. Jerome, what did you think? Which of the two? We had Team EST versus Team Damage Control in the women's side, and on the men's side, we had, Team Cody Rhodes versus the Judgment Day. Which War Games match did you think was better, and why?
Neither. I thought they both were boring. Well,
which one was less boring?
You can't do the men's was less. Well, actually, the women's was less boring than the men's. But you can't do War Games without a roof, and I don't like all the weapons and stuff. I like the old NWA, put the roof on the cage and just fight it out type, War Games match. I'm not into the weapons and the no roof. It's just. I guess I'm an old school fuddy duddy.
There you go. Okay. All right. I don't know how we follow up on that one.
Right. I mean, I remember watching the very first War Games on July 4, 1987, when Michael Cole mentioned it. I watched that live as it happened. So, I remember that. So I'm just, that's the War Games I like.
Yeah, I mean. That was such a cool look with the roof over the cage, and I mean, it was a low roof though. I still think about what happened to Brian Pillman.
Yeah,
and even J.J. Dillon, got roughed up pretty bad there too.
Yep.
Which is probably why they don't do it that way. I also think logistically, I mean, you have to update it and WWEize it and stuff like that. And they want their cool little wacky shots and everything, but I can live with it as long as it's not War Games the way that I know War Games and the way that War Games, but there's enough history in it to make me like, okay, I'm okay with that. Roy, which one did you think was better?
I think I preferred the men's for maybe one specific reason. I thought the weapons were a bit of an overkill in the women's. Having every woman prior to entering the ring having to bring in a weapon going under the ring. For me, anyways, I thought it was a bit of an overkill. But that's not to say it was a bad match. I don't think it was bad. It was just a little bit much, and there were some scary bumps there. There were some scary, scary bumps off the top of that cage, which, credit to them, because I would never do that. I would never do that.
That RKO that they did with JD McDonough was awesome. That guy is really taking some really tough bumps. Like when I watch him on Raw, he takes those gigantic back body drops and he's just getting slammed on the ring side. But to get pushed off the top of that cage and then do a front bump, and he basically, and I think Orton mistimed it just a hair, where his jaw just basically ate Randy Orton's shoulder. That's a tough bump, man. That's not a fun day at the office.
It's a difficult one, and then you also have like Charlotte's moonsault and the garbage can off the top. I mean, it was a lot. It was some dangerous spots.
I think if you ask any professional wrestler, the bump that was probably the one that would get the most respect from the wrestlers was the one that Io Sky did.
Yeah.
It's like one thing to dive off, the top rope with a chair and splash somebody with it, or even take the garbage can and dive with it into the pile. But when you put it over your head and you lose your line of vision, and just putting it over your head, even just for like a second, could throw off your equilibrium. She was hanging on that thing very precariously. There was like nothing for her to grab onto. She wasn't near any of those chains. I thought that was like, number one, that was just wild that in WWE where they try to be as safe as possible, to like let that happen was pretty crazy. But when she puts the can over her head and then dives, her depth perception is totally gone. You don't know when you're going to hit. I think I think I've only seen this done one other time in WWE. I think really in an extreme way like that, where Vince McMahon was on the table and Shawn Michaels puts the garbage can over his head and then he comes off the ladder with the elbow drop. Vince is just sitting there. He can't see anything. And that is like probably the toughest bump that you can take, because you don't know when to clench your body to take the move.
Yeah,
I think that is, like that I think was probably the toughest bump of the entire show. And one that I respected, I think, the most, because you have no depth perception anymore. You can't even clench up when you think you're going to hit. You're just clenched the entire time, which is when injuries can really happen. I thought that was a really wildly crazy move, and it didn't look that way either. She made it look so easy. I was really impressed with Io Sky. I think the women's match was probably my favorite of the two. I have to say, they kicked off the show. The Chicago, they started off so well because the Chicago crowd was so hot for everything that they were doing. And it just like they set the tone for it, and it really just like made me feel like, God, this is gonna be a great night. Like the crowd took what was a good women's war game match and they elevated it to great. And they did the same thing with the Miz and Gunther as well.
Yeah, oh my God, they wanted the Miz to win.
I cannot believe like how well that worked. I mean, because I thought that the fatal 4-way that Miz won, I thought the finish was just trash. It was like, it just seemed like totally mistimed and really not. It seemed like it was a good idea on paper and not particularly well executed. But God, like they were into everything Mike Mizanin was doing, and I think that's a credit to Miz and his promos, and also the way that they presented Gunther is like, having him go out and do interviews and say like, I really do think this guy's a joke.
It was surprising that they went that far with it, and like that's what I think added to the storyline, to the buildup of the match, is a lot of people view Miz that way, which I don't think they should, but the fact that he mentioned it and in multiple interviews, but as you mentioned, the crowd loved it. Every time he hit the low blow, he hit like 2 low blows and the exposed turnbuckle, and the fans were cheering him on. They wanted him to win. And I think it was a good match. The build up to it was good. The crowd helped it significantly, but like you said, I think the ending, the finish, was just a little bit kind of, I don't know. It could have been better.
Yeah, it just kind of happened, like I didn't really feel like that he worked on Miz's back so much that like, putting a Boston Crab on him should have finished him off like that. But, like in Gunther matches, they try to go for like a little more of like a realistic approach, which is why like I kind of respected Miz for trying to pull out like, the satellite DDT and doing Hurricane Ranas and stuff like that to try to spice up his moveset. He's also another guy that's like 40 and up. For him to want to try to, reinvent himself and get to Gunther's level was, I respected that a lot. Oh, we got a little baby here. Oh no. But, it goes to show just how great Gunther is, that he can take like the Miz and have a match like that I thought was very good for the Miz, but not one of Gunther's best matches. It's like probably one of the best matches of Miz's career, but not one of the best matches of Gunther's career. That's how good Gunther is, that he can give somebody, their best match, and it's not even close to like anything that he's done even this month that was really good.
Yeah.
Jerome, what do you think about Gunther and 533 days and counting? What do you think about the reign and how he's been? Do you like the kind of presentation they're doing with him?
I do. At first, I wasn't sold on him, but now I like the character. I like the way he's being presented. He's being presented, as an unstoppable heel. The match tonight with The Miz was great. Match of the night for me. That was the only match I really honestly found entertaining. I thought The Miz did really well. I didn't expect The Miz to win, but they both put on a really good physical match. It'd be interesting to see where they go from here with Gunther. Who's the next opponent for him? I don't know. It'll be very interesting. I know for the next 6 months he can't go out of out of the country. So another title defense, maybe at the Royal Rumble, maybe it'd be definitely WrestleMania. We'll see what Triple H has in store creatively for him. But yeah, I like the Gunther character, and he's got that kind of that serious character to him. He's not, the Intercontinental title is being featured really well with Gunther, because for a long time it was kind of a second-rate title. It was a joke, but the way that they're doing it with Gunther and this big long 73-day reign now, or whatever it is, 574, something like that.
533 right now.
533, I guess. Well, we'll probably get to 574 with him, I'm sure. I'm kind of wondering if they're going to have him do a long 1,000-day plus reign like they're doing with Roman Reigns. Maybe. I mean, he's definitely brought prestige back into that title, and so I like the way they're booking him and presenting him. So, yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like, I love wrestling when it's a variety show, and there's a little bit of something for everybody. So, you're a little more skewed toward, a more traditional presentation to professional wrestling. Would that be fair to say, Jerome? And Gunther gives you that.
Yes, he does. Yep, he does. Yes, he does. He certainly does, because the Honky Tonk Man had that long reign. I like the longer reigns. I don't like this hot potato stuff they play with the belts that Vince Russo did during the Attitude Era. Like every week a belt was changing hands. It was so stupid. But I like these long reigns because it makes the champion look credible. It brings credibility to the title, and it just makes these characters look more serious and not these jokes, I guess, more or less.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think the long title reigns do add credibility, and spacing out the title matches even judiciously as well, I think is really smart. Where if you want to do the long title reigns, don't give them a title match every week or every month even. Sometimes like Roman Reigns now is like, I think he's had 24 matches this year or something like that, something really, really low. But when he does have the match, it means something. Even if he's going to win, they'll have at least built the storyline to the point where it's like, this is a really big deal.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the 80s,
long, but it's definitely jumped the shark a little bit with Roman. But like Gunther is like, he's churning out great match after great match and elevating people as well right now, which is exactly what the Intercontinental title is designed to do. And that's the great part of like that variety show. And then you have, more drama with like, the Judgment Day and like, the infighting in the Judgment Day, like that will appeal to some people. And then, you have goofy crap that's not really any good, but it's still comedy, with Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. I'm just thinking in terms of just solely on SmackDown, on Raw, but on SmackDown, you have Kevin Owens, who is serious, but he's also very funny. And that's a whole different presentation of a variety show. You have the bloodline drama. There's just little pieces of like every type of genre, and they're really nailing that stuff. So, it's not a one match show anymore. Like there's multiple things that will appeal to different people. You ask me what my match of the night is, and Roy and you, it's 3 different things because of there's something for everybody now. And I love that, just good stuff. What else was on this show? We're only 5 matches here, but gosh, that CM Punk thing was a really, really big deal, I think. Dragon Lee versus Santos Escobar. Roy, I like this match.
This was, I was talking to a buddy of mine earlier today, and I told him this will probably be match of the night, just because it's 2 similar styles, 2 very good workers. I've been impressed with Dragon Lee and Santos Escobar from what I've seen on SmackDown, and I thought they delivered tonight. It was maybe missing that build to be a pay-per-view match, so to speak, or premium live event. But for what it was, I don't think it was a bad match at all. Could it have been better? Sure. Build up better storylines, whatever it is. But I liked it. And I like what they're doing with Santos Escobar. And I really think that they're going to push him and continue to push him. And with Dragon Lee, they've been giving him some matches for the past couple of weeks on SmackDown too. So these are 2 guys that on SmackDown we have been seeing and we're going to continue to see. And I'm happy for them. I'm happy they got a premium live event match at Survivor Series. And honestly speaking, it was probably one of the better matches on the show.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
I liked it a lot. And number one, I you know, when I was recapping NXT full time, really like 2019 and into 2020, and then I just got, it's like I just got to a point where I just couldn't recap empty arena shows anymore, and I was like, I'm gonna cut back on one. It's gonna be NXT. But I've had my eye on Santos Escobar when he came in as El Hijo de Fantasma, to when he unmasked after winning the interim cruiserweight championship and doing Legado del Fantasma. I'm like, this guy's a superstar in the waiting in the wings, and God, he's going to go up to main roster and be completely squandered by Vince because he's going to see him as a short guy, just another, and treat him as such, and he'll never get a chance. But now it's like, oh, thank God, there's a regime change, and he got called up because this guy's a great promo. The promos that he's been cutting on SmackDown, against Rey Mysterio was pretty vicious, and I thought, nicely done. He's a great performer, and Dragon Lee is exactly what they've been looking for forever. They signed Rey Mysterio in 2002, and God, he gave them numbers in the Latin markets like you wouldn't believe for years, and they've been trying to find the next Rey Mysterio for at least over a decade at this point, and they always go back to Rey because there's only one Rey Mysterio, really. They tried it with Sin Cara, they tried it with Alberto Del Rio, but he wasn't masked, but they were trying to find that person that could transcend into that Latin market that they really want to tap into, especially on like the West Coast and stuff like that. Rey Mysterio was humongous there. They tried it with Kalisto, and the Lucha House Party was stupid, but they've made a lot of attempts, and then they always wind up, we got to resign Rey, we got to re-up Rey. Rey's almost 50 years old, and they're still going with Rey Mysterio. I think they finally have their next Rey in Dragon Lee. What do you think?
Yes, if he's booked correctly, I think he could be the next Rey Mysterio. He's really good in the ring, and I haven't seen a lot of his matches, but what I saw tonight I was really impressed with, and I'm glad they finally turned Escobar heel because he didn't mesh with me as a babyface. So, and he's done his best mic work as a heel, just recently. So, but yeah, getting back to Dragon Lee, again, if booked correctly, he could be the next Rey Mysterio, and I think that he could bring in a lot of money, especially from that, the Mexican Latino fan base. I think that that they could really sell merchandise and masks if they really push him and do what they can do, like they've done with Rey Mysterio. Does he need a title belt right away? No. He just needs that good push and have some good matches and be featured on SmackDown regularly and on the premium live events regularly. And so I think they've they can make it work.
I hope they can, because I think the guy has just an insane amount of talent. I think he's right. He's what I believe he's what they're looking for. So, gentlemen, we're only an hour into the show, but there's only 5 matches, and we already talked to death about CM Punk. But 37. This was the 37th Survivor Series, if you could believe that. 37 of these now. Honestly, Survivor Series, I thought was like a dead concept. There was even talk a couple of years ago about just completely scrapping it altogether, and which to the more traditional fan base would be blasphemy because it's an event with a lot of history. But when I was looking through some of my recaps just from the past couple of years of of them just like kind of using this time as like, oh, we're just going to shut down the entire writing staff for the entire month and just do pointless SmackDown versus Raw versus NXT storylines, and that just seemed to be the way that they were going to do Survivor Series from now until forever. I thought the show was a throwaway show. I can't remember the last time I saw a Survivor Series that was worth a damn and was really any good. Where out of all 37, I'm trying to think back to like some of the really good ones. Obviously, I mean, Survivor Series, one of the biggest of all time, happened in 1997 for all the wrong reasons. Somewhere did you hear that? Paul screaming. Then the Survivor Series 2002 with the debut of the Elimination Chamber, which was a mix of like Royal Rumble and War Games and all those great, and Hell in a Cell and all those great matches, kind of combined into one. I thought that was a really good one. Last year's Survivor Series I thought was pretty damn decent, but this one, to me, I have it up there already, at least in my top 3 of all time, just because of the return and like what they did tonight. Like it really felt like a special show when I was watching it. We'll start with Roy.
Yeah, excuse me. Sorry, I've just been under the weather the past week.
No.
You mentioned it. At one point, they were gonna get rid of Survivor Series the same way they got rid of King of the Ring. So they really didn't care at one point about the Survivor Series. I think just for the ending alone, it has to be up there in the top 3, if not, let's say top 5 at the very, very least, just for the ending. I don't think there was a particularly bad match on the show. I thought the War Games were pretty good, decent for what they were. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed a Survivor Series this much. I really, really don't. I can't. Just because last year aside, it's just been bad all around.
I forgot I was muted. Yes. I'm literally scrolling through Wikipedia and just looking at like some of the Survivor Series from even just the last few years. It's like all this, like, I think the first year they did like the Raw and SmackDown concept, which they always seem to do. Like, I know they did that. Survivor Series 2001 was fun. The team, the fall of the alliance, Team WWF versus Team WCW. That was a fun one. In 2002 was decent. 2004 was pretty good when like whoever everybody who won was going to be like general manager for the night or something. That was like something stupid, just like try to stretch out the winter a little bit when they were still trying. But God, there are some real stinkers. I'm looking at Survivor Series 2013. I remember how bad this was. Orton versus Big Show. God, that was a horrible main event. I remember how silent it was. But then you had, 2016 with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. That was pretty decent. Lesnar, Daniel Bryan, that was good, But nothing. But like I have to look at it like in order for anything to stand out. Like the only ones that really pop in my head are 97, 2002, and I think tonight. I think tonight is going to, because it was like a moment. It could have been anywhere, but it was at Survivor Series. It's going to be like one of those. It's one of those quintessential WWE moments, that really only WWE can make. It's like really like we've seen other places try it, and it's just a cheap imitation compared to like what, for whatever reason, how they do it. The way they shoot it, the way they make tease it, and I don't know. It's perfect. It's perfect. What do you think, Jerome? Where does this Survivor Series rank for you, sir?
With CM Punk return, probably top 5. If CM Punk didn't return, I would just see this as another glorified house show with 2 cage matches. It was boring for me.
All right. Jerome, not feeling the War Games. Not feeling the War Games.
Not impressed. Not impressed.
He was not impressed. And in the chat room, what do you think about this? Where do you think that this Survivor Series is going to rank? For Demetrius, he says the top will always be 97, and then the Undertaker's debut. So we're talking 1990. But I think historically, the 1990s Survivor Series is a bigger deal just because of the debut of the Undertaker. But I don't think anybody knew at the time that was going to be something special. I've seen the 1990 Survivor Series. I that's not the one with Gobbledygooker. I think that was 92. But the 1990 Survivor Series was Hogan and Warrior and Tito versus Hercules, Paul Roma, Rick Martel, the Warlord, and Ted DiBiase. Like the shows, like they were all about, like every match was like one of those like Survivor Series matches, and that got played out pretty quickly. But I don't know, like the 1990 one was just okay to me, but historically, obviously, means something. Andrew Elder says top 5 for me. Let's see. I like Taker Vince Buried Live 2003. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one because of the gimmick that little old me was amazed by. War Games was really good, in my opinion. Oh, Gooker and Taker were on the same show. Okay, so there you go. That disqualifies 1990 for me. Brett Farmer says top 5 last year is ahead because of War Games being on a main WWE pay-per-view for the first time. Top spot bit for the moment, but surely top 5 with CM Punk today. Nice. Okay.
I think the top 5. I think the CM Punk thing just kind of seals it for top 5. I think.
Yeah, and it's just surreal to go on WWE's Twitter right now, and their banner. I keep saying Twitter, it's X, but their banner is CM Punk. Sitting there. It's like this is Bizarro world right now. We are living in Bizarro world. I think it's so hard to get wrestling fans to be happy with anything, and I'm looking at our Survivor Series poll, and we have 93% thumbs up. that to me just shows you right there was something. Andrew Elder says it was thumbs up even before CM Punk, which I agree with. I thought it was a good show, but that CM Punk thing, and just pushes it into that legendary territory because of just the shock appeal of it. And also it's like one of those like this I think the more that we learn about this story, the more it's gonna be like one of those like amazing things that can that used to happen in wrestling and haven't happened for a long time. Like the deal was made this evening and then he debuted tonight, and it's like like there wasn't a contract in the morning. How did this happen? It's like one of those things that like really only seems to happen in WWE. Like they sealed the deal right before, for the fans and made it happen by any means necessary.
They could do it. They could pull it off.
Yeah, it felt like it feels classic, and it feels like there's a sense of urgency. Like they want to be great, and I think in a lot of ways WWE has to Roy and Jerome. Did you guys see that Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance?
Of course.
Oh, Jerome, you got to watch it. It's phenomenal. But like Michael Jordan was so good that he had like he's convinced. If you ask him about this, like one guy, I think he was on like the Detroit Pistons or something like that like he had like a really good game against the Bulls, and then he said something like, "Hey, good game, Mike." Trying to show up Michael Jordan, saying like, I had a better game than you. And Michael Jordan was like, he said, I got on the plane. I was just thinking about it over and over and over and over again about this guy saying that to me. And I was going to just go back and embarrass him in the next game that we had. And he completely embarrassed the guy. I think he had like 53 points that game, only to find out that it never happened. He actually was making up scenarios in his head so that he could keep pushing himself to be great. I don't think that WWE has anything in terms of like real, true competition. But I think they have to, make, AEW in their mind be something bigger than it really is so they can keep being great. It feels like there's like some sort of urgency to pull out all stops and put on the best show possible and in a way say like, this is how it's done. This is how you're supposed to do it. It felt that way to me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm also like Michael Jordaning this and imagining something that isn't there. But I say this. What do you guys think of that? I'll start with Jerome. What do you think of that take?
That's a good take. Yeah.
It's
a good take. I really got nothing else to really say on that. Other than, you said it well, I guess.
Oh, thank you, Roy. Can you decipher anything of my craziness?
No, man. It makes sense. Like you mentioned You know,
I
the
feel bad
last dance
making you
and creating.
talk.
No. Well, it's you know, the last dance and creating the scenarios in his head. Maybe it's self motivation. Maybe sometimes it's what you need. I don't know. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. Literally, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything we've seen so far. I guess.
I think it also shows, like, what like a fresh coat of paint can do for something that, for a genre that I mean, like, there's not a lot of things that could be like a first time done. I mean, like, I really feel like, I was having this conversation with Victoria last night. We were trying to find something to watch. I'm like, God, like, at a certain point, it's going to come to, like, like most. I mean, I think we've already reached that point with movies, like, where it's like everything just seems to be like, just like, oh, we have a branch off of like some superhero movie, and it seems like that's always like the big crap every summer. Is it's like, oh, we got to turn on another big, gigantic, CGI'd superhero movie. But there doesn't seem to be like any like real tremendous original ideas anymore, because I think everything's just been done, and the only thing left to do is just remake things that have already been done. Like, I thought, I was like, when I saw that movie, like A Star Is Born, I was like, oh, that was a really good movie, and then I find out that was like the 5th time they remade A Star Is Born. I had no idea. I just did not know that.
I didn't know until you just said it.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, like Lady Gaga, the whole thing. I was like, oh, this is great. Like, that song was really nice, and it's like, God, like, and it's like the 5th different iteration of that guy like killing himself in the movie too. It's like, first, I think in one of the old movies he walks into the ocean and drowns or something like that. I'm like, that's a weird way to kill yourself, but okay, whatever. In any event, like, I think in wrestling the same thing. It's like, things have been done, but like, when you get like new owners in there, this TKO group, and what's, oh my God, I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank on Endeavor. Thank you. That management coming in and saying like, okay, we see how you guys have been running your business. Let's try it this way, and take Vince out of that picture and out of that role. It's just, wow. It really just turned the whole entire thing around. I don't think tonight happens if Vince is in charge.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. A lot of things probably don't happen tonight if Vince is in charge, especially obviously CM Punk. I
mean, it's just shocking that, like, you see how, like Triple H had the book for, the last 6 months of the year, or the last 5 months of the year last year. And then, into this year, and they had the biggest WrestleMania ever. And then Vince comes back the next night, and it's just like, oh my God, like, wow. You can really see the difference on how chaotic the show is all of a sudden, and how things just start to not make sense anymore. And then now he's gone, and it's like, wow, we're right back to feeling like it's red hot again. That is so nice. It's just amazing, like what this change has done. And I'm just, again, I love that I'm excited to see Raw on Monday. I love that I'm super excited. I might even dust off Victoria over here, and we might even do a post Raw show. What do you think, hon?
Might have to happen.
She said it might have to happen.
We heard that. Yeah, we heard that.
You heard it here first. And this is coming from a 3-time pregnancy champion now. We're having a 3rd girl. My God. It's like, I thought it was hard to do these shows with only 1 kid. I can't imagine what's going to be like with 3 kids. My God. What's going to happen in my life? I think we might be back with a post show on Monday. I think it's going to happen. So I'm excited. I'm so happy that I got a chance to get on here and talk with you guys about it tonight. I'm glad that Survivor Series is in Chicago and not Perth, Australia, or Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Where we probably wouldn't be able to do a post show because it's like midday, and who the hell wants to watch a podcast when you can go out on a Saturday night instead? Touch grass, everybody. It's okay. It's okay to touch grass every now and then. Just good stuff. Thank you guys so much for chatting along and hanging out with me and listening to my brain droppings, because I know I can sometimes get a stream of consciousness going and go to town, especially because I haven't talked about wrestling on a podcast in a while. And thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. Great lively chat here. It's nice to have Nafis back and Andrew, and we had Quentin Walters and Brett Farmers here, and Demetrius, and who's going to his first WrestleMania. He lives in Greece, and he's going to WrestleMania 40.
There you go.
That's pretty freaking cool.
Nice, Demetrius.
And of course the great Daniel Schell and Shifty, and just nice to have the crew is back. They stick with us even when we haven't done a show in a while, which is really nice. We'll try to get some content back as well. It's I don't want everybody to think that I only talk about WWE when it's negative. I got
No, we do everything.
Although the shows are significantly less interesting when I'm like, I loved everything about it. Good night. But yeah, it's fun. In any event, Jerome, any final thoughts on Survivor Series?
Nope, I don't really have any final thoughts other than what I'd said before. I thought it was just a glorified house show with 2 cage matches. I found the show overall boring minus CM Punk's return, and I just didn't have oomph for me tonight. I don't know. I was missing something, I guess.
I feel like when we do these WWE review shows that we should dress Jerome up as the Grim Reaper. Just like laying down, like just have him sit there with a scythe. I hated everything.
I mean, I enjoyed the last show they did, the last premium live event they did. This one just didn't have it for me. I don't know. It just didn't. It just felt predictable. I mean, Rhea Ripley and Zoe Stark was predictable because she didn't come across as a credible threat to take the title off Rhea. And I knew Santos Escobar was going to go over just because they recently turned him heel, and Team Cody has to go over because of the return of Randy Orton. And so I just, and I knew Gunther was going to retain, even though I thought that was a great physical match with The Miz. And so,
I got to tell you, one of my favorite parts of the whole Gunther match was Corey Graves going like, I went on the gambling website and
I saw
Gunther was a minus 5,000 favorite. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I used to I can't imagine I would love to be in the know on the book, for that one night finally when Roman Reigns loses. I'm going to put the house on that, and then I'm going to win big. Especially if I'm the guy making the decision, that'd be amazing. God, they got
nothing like promoting inside betting inside the world.
Yeah, I mean they'll take Roman. They'll take it off Roman. It's when I'm 50, so they'll probably take it off. I'll be 60 years old and they'll still have the title on Roman. So
probably. But it to me, it's deeply weird to gamble on something that's predetermined. It's just so strange. Yeah. I don't know. Roy, final thoughts on Survivor Series War Games?
Honestly, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pay-per-view where, in general, I think it was we had good matches, and I've said this in the past on previous shows. I think it was a pay-per-view or a premium live event of moments. Right, I don't think we're gonna look back at this show and remember oh my God, that was a 5-star match. Or no, I think we're gonna look back at it and say, I remember Io Sky jumping off. I remember Charlotte. I remember JD, and obviously I remember Orton, and definitely remember CM Punk. So I think it's gonna be one of those events where we're gonna look back on it and think of the crazy moments that we had on the show.
Right. And that just shows you those moments really that those can be the difference, like when I think back to the Royal Rumble from this year, it's I thought the men's Royal Rumble was probably one of the best iterations, or at least the top 5 iterations of the Royal Rumble match that they've ever done. I thought, the Cody Rhodes return at number 30 and Gunther going from number 1 to, almost to the final distance was incredible. And everything that they booked in between was really well done. But the thing that I remember most about it was Sami Zayn's chair shot to Roman Reigns. That moment. And just the collective, from the crowd was just so cool. WrestleMania, the 2 main events, the tag title win and then Roman Reigns retaining. Those are just excellent moments. They make moments here. I think about Vince, taking the sip of water going, we make movies, and beyond the mat. Just love it. I love it. I'm having so much fun watching wrestling again, and I'm enjoying recapping. It's I can't wait to sit down and get to it. So it's good stuff. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for following along with us. Wrestleview Live number 117. We'll be back with a post Raw on Monday. I shouldn't make promises that I can't keep, but I'm going to make that one anyway. What the heck? Let's just do it. Make sure it happens. Until then, I am Mike Tedesco. That's Roy Nemmer that way. And down there is Jerome Weiland. Have a great one, everybody. and we'll see you next time. Ciao.